today's topic is it's like kind of heavy and like it honestly I think it really sucks. Hi everyone, this is Frequently Dramatic. My name is Arika. Here on this channel, I talk about whatever I want. Before we get into this topic, I just want to say thank you so much. As of recording, we are 29 subscribers, which is crazy. My goal was 25, so for it to like surpass that, I really appreciate, everybody who's here. For those of you who've engaged with my videos, thank you so much. That being said, my new goal is to hit 50 subscribers. So if this is the first time you're seeing me and you like my videos, I would really appreciate it if you hit a follow, if you hit a subscribe. Also, please feel free to like and share, and of course comment. And again, I appreciate you guys so much. So today we're talking about some TikToks posted by a user called Not Coneigh Squadron. So I assume her name is Coneigh. She made this account basically just for these videos, and in these videos she's talking about her experience with CoolSculpting. And if you're my age, I'm in my early 30s, you know what CoolSculpting is. Like maybe like 8 to 10 years ago, CoolSculpting was like really big. They constantly had ads running on TV. They are at a lot of different companies from my understanding, but one of the major companies that used to advertise for CoolSculpting was Ideal Image. Now, to my surprise, after watching these videos, turns out Ideal Image closed down. I didn't even know that. And, full disclosure, I used to go to Ideal Image. I used to get laser hair removal there. So basically in these videos, Coneigh is basically describing her experience with getting CoolSculpting. Initially, she did not name the specific procedure, I guess because of liability, but she has since named it. She had an adverse reaction to the CoolSculpting. So instead of her fat shrinking and disappearing, which was what the big thing was, like they would freeze your fat and your fat would eventually disappear. Instead, her fat got hard and is like growing. So yeah, it honestly, as somebody who goes to the gym quite often, and she has worked very hard for the physique that she has today, it sounds like a nightmare. Because imagine you're going to the gym, you're putting all the hard work, you're eating healthier most of the time, but now your body's paying for this procedure that you did like how many ever years ago. We'll get into it when we watch the videos, but yeah, it actually sounds quite like a nightmare to me.
This is the full story of how Ideal Image created a lifelong deformity and bulge on my core that has to be removed through surgical intervention, and how I discovered that the parent company of this procedure has been doing this to people for years and leaving them without any proper ability to get the correct treatment that they need. I would also like to say that I am not the only victim. I am just one of the lucky ones that, even though it sucked at the time, I see as a blessing in disguise, did not sign an NDA, so therefore I am able to share details of my case publicly.
Yeah, the NDA thing, signing an NDA for a procedure that is being done to your body, to me is crazy and absolutely wrong. I didn't know that was a thing, but I'm assuming, I don't know for sure, with the proliferation of social media and people having more access to be able to tell their story to the public, is probably a thing now, which like is wild. If you're paying somebody money for a procedure, never sign an NDA. Please.
This is going to be a bit long and detailed because it's important to remember that everything that's happened leading up to where I'm at now and having to fight this, granted the fight failed, but still there's a lot of details. I personally think that they did this on purpose and run me around to make it as confusing as possible so that if I tried to tell my story, I would get thrown off.
Major companies do things like that. They either try to suck you dry so you have the money left over, or they make the process so crazy or they bury you in paperwork that you literally start losing your mind if you don't have the right lawyer.
In 2019, I was sold a procedure by Ideal Image under the guise that it was a painless and non-invasive form of liposuction that could help freeze off the fat cells in my problem areas. When they sold this to me, I was not told about the risk of PAW.
Yeah, so at this point, she wasn't saying which company it is, though just from listening to what she said, like, and it's Ideal Image, obviously, CoolSculpting, right? And then for those of you that don't know what PAW is, it is Paradoxical Adipose Hyperplasia, which I explained earlier. It's basically when the fat, instead of shrinking and disappearing, it hardens and it like basically gets a life. Well, fat always has a life of its own, but now it's like literally growing. It's not like she's putting on weight. It is literally growing.
After the first year, I started to randomly gain weight, thinking it was my fault, even though not much in my lifestyle had changed. Keep that. That's an important thing for later. In 2024, after finally starting to see weight loss progress from reducing my diet significantly and working out for about 90 minutes a day, I noticed everything but my core was toning down. However, since no mention of PAW was given to me, I was clueless as to what I was dealing with. And just for FYIs for all of the whataboutisms in the comments, PAW is something that develops slowly but surely over time. At least it's how it developed for me. And it's since gotten a lot bigger. But at this time, I genuinely thought it was just weight gain, because if you don't know what you're looking for with this, especially on your core, it's very easy to mistake this as simply just weight gain or like visceral fat or something. I went down a 1-year rabbit hole of trying to figure out what was going on, but I couldn't find anything. So in 2025, randomly, I had a video come up on my TikTok about PAW, and that's when it clicked what was happening. Not because I was properly informed, not because the clinic took responsibility for the damages that they caused, not because I had warning ahead of time, but because another victim spoke out about what had also happened to them. I called Ideal Image immediately, letting them know that I was not made aware of this risk when I originally got the procedure, and was told to come in and take pictures, and that they would send everything to the claims department to get compensated for treatment. I thought this nightmare would finally end, but this was only the beginning. Upon my initial consultation, I was met with 3 different Ideal Image techs poking and prodding at the obvious paradoxical adipose hyperplasia bulge. The first tech seemed understanding and admitted she could see what I meant. Then she brought in a second tech who completely gaslit me, saying, well, PAW doesn't look like that, and you'll need imaging done to see if it's actually PAW. When I asked questions on how to get it diagnosed, she just kept claiming that I should have come in sooner, even after I made them aware that they never told me about this, so it would have been impossible to come in sooner. After my third nurse practitioner came in and also denied the very obvious case of PAW on my core, which was immediately confirmed as PAW by 2 separate board-certified surgeons later in the year and documented as such, they again denied all wrongdoing and sent me on my way.
That's crazy. How would she know that what's happening to her is linked to CoolSculpting, that she had what? So this is 2024, so she had it in 2019. A regular person would not know to look for that if y'all did not explicitly warn them about the possibility of getting it. So yeah, the gaslighting is crazy. Also, here's the thing, okay? I never understand employees who treat customers like this on behalf of a company when at the end of the day, the money is not coming out of your pocket. Okay, it really isn't. Like, there is no need to go this hard. Just like take people's concerns down, submit the claim, and that's all you need to do. You don't need to be gaslighting people. Like, I feel like that's a step above, 1, your pay grade, and 2, it just says a lot about your personality.
This led to almost 3 months of researching about how to move forward on my own, leading me to believe that I had just been the target of medical negligence at the hands of Ideal Image, and further, leading me to discover how far this parent company of the procedure that I got have been going over the years to cover up their own negligence with this. Allegedly. I discovered on Reddit after posting my story that Ideal Image did not handle this correctly, and a user who worked in medical devices made me aware to contact the FDA, as it was handled incorrectly, and gave me the contact information for this parent company to submit my claim. Upon doing so, this parent company told me I needed to provide a certified diagnosis from the original clinic, but since I was struggling to get them to even work with me, I could use a third-party board-certified surgeon, a procedure tech, or educator, or a nurse practitioner. When I asked if I needed imaging done, they said no. At the same time I was in contact with them, I had also been in contact with other clinics in the area, as I was desperate to get information on how to navigate this, since Ideal Image was purposely shutting me down and denying all accountability, which is something Ideal Image has been notorious for among many other Ideal Image and procedure victims alike. During that process, I had many other clinics and plastic surgeons' offices tell me that imaging is not required and a waste of money, because PAW is not only distinct and easy to notice based on the looks of it, but imaging wouldn't pick it up, since on the images, it just looks like normal fat, even though it isn't. When I asked for more help, they denied answering questions or even diagnosing me because they knew how common PAW leads to legal battles due to how chronic of an issue it's been for years, and I was at a loss. There were a few surgeons that were willing to bring me in for a consultation, but also keep in mind, like, I don't have money like that. I don't have insurance because insurance is not affordable for somebody who is self-employed and also is single, and they were wanting like $500-$600 consultation fees just for me to come in there. So financially, economically, I couldn't swing that.
That absolutely sucks. Like, I can't imagine, like, you know something's wrong, you know what the issue is, but you have to pay so much money just to get it diagnosed, and you're not even sure if at the end of it, you're going to get the money back that you need to fix it.
It wasn't until I found another board-certified surgeon in Nashville who does PAW corrections that I was able to get confirmation on paper that this is, in fact, suspected PAW. She let me know that I would need to have it cut out and the rest liposuctioned. I made her aware in the notes when booking this consultation and at the appointment that I was getting this for my records to send to the parent company claim department to ensure that I was going to get compensated for this properly, since the first clinic that did this to me denied all responsibility. Per this clinic's request, I went in search of my medical records from Ideal Image and had them sent over to this clinic and to the claim people, along with the diagnostic paperwork from the clinic. The parent company refused to take it without confirmation from Ideal Image and the other clinic, who I am not naming because I don't have permission, so they had me send the contact info for both of them so they could reach out separately to confirm what I had sent over. The diagnosing clinic refused to respond to the email because they didn't want to get involved with any legal battles, which further left the door open to continue being gaslit and silenced by Ideal Image. It's important to also note that during this time, I had been asking Ideal Image to send me my contractual agreements and medical records, and the clinic manager, Vinny, kept forgetting to attach certain records like 3 times. At first, he just sent the diagnosing clinic really bad before and after pictures. You could clearly tell by looking at my core and the after images taken by Ideal Image that they had purposely angled the camera to make it look like it wasn't PAW.
Just so you guys can see, these are her before and after pictures. I saw the pictures before this specific TikTok, so when I saw the photos, I was like, why is she positioned differently in the images from the spa? That doesn't make sense. But what she's saying now, that absolutely makes sense.
But there was nothing attached with these records showing my signature that said I had been informed. When I asked for where that was, he told me that he had to get in contact with corporate to send those to me. It took a week to get any kind of response, and what was sent to me ended up being just a piece of paper I filled out the day of the treatment with my medical history, problem areas, and it included the updated info I filled out the day I came in to complain. The only signature of mine on there was for 5 small I understand lines where I put my initials and then a small line where I added my signature.
They're literally dragging out the process is what they're doing. They're trying to make it so difficult for you to get information that you would like leave them alone, or as we'll learn later, some sort of statute of limitations had run out, so they're just dragging along the process.
Nothing on this paper had any mention of PAW, and Vinny, the clinic manager, kept denying that anything else was in existence, further trying to silence me and denying wrongdoing. It was at this point that I knew I needed to fight this, and due to other clinics not wanting to get involved with a true diagnosis that could be confirmed with the parent company because they know that this procedure always ends in legal battles, my case with the parent company was sabotaged. I reached out to as many lawyers as possible, and every single one of them told me similar yet different boundaries as to why fighting this procedure is impossible, since they have covered their butts with legal loopholes and inaccurate reporting for years. And the other factor at this time was because the paperwork they sent me, the only thing that I signed, did not have legal agreements in it. Another reason I got from contacting lawyers was that their legal defense is powered by too much money, and not many are able to win or settle outside of arbitration unless you're lucky to have the money, time, and legal resources to fight it. Since this happened in the state of Tennessee, I was also working off of a 1-year statute of limitations from the date of the procedure, but there is also a discover clause which says that you have 1 year from discovering the injury if the negligence includes not being properly informed, which is what happened to me. But since Ideal Image purposely continued to refuse that there was any record of a contract that they sent and that they had sent me everything, I kept being told that even if I did have the resources to fight this, it appears there wasn't a binding contract.
That's crazy about the binding contract. I don't know. Isn't like, I guess it depends on what they make you sign. Like, it should be a binding contract every time you go under like a needle or in this case, whatever the CoolSculpting machine is. Because this is literally a body that they're doing procedures on.
In between this time, I kept researching and trying to find a way to fight this, and then I found a PAW Facebook support group that opened my eyes to the fact that this is happening to thousands and thousands of victims just being left maimed without support or proper compensation, and that Ideal Image was notorious for denying accountability when they are in fact at fault. In this group, I learned that many victims from the early 2000s and 2010s were provided compensation for multiple rounds of liposuction, but forced to sign waivers saying that they would never speak out or sue. And please keep in mind that this company has been actively hiding research and sweeping cases under the table, so people were not aware that this was a risk, as this company has been successful in painting this procedure out to be safe, allegedly, especially in the earlier days, allegedly. However, these people were in the support group after receiving the surgery and then years later noticing the paw aggressively growing back again. But they didn't know what to do because when they reached back out to the parent company, they were denied any more compensation and were now screwed because of the forms they were forced into without any understanding of what it actually takes to remove this properly. Some victims were left blindsided because they were like me and hadn't been educated at all on what paw even was. Others were told by clinics that more rounds of CoolSculpting would be the solution.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's insane. Not warning people is already bad, but then to like try to sell them more procedures in order to fix it when you know damn well they're having an adverse reaction to the exact thing that you're saying needs to be done to fix it is crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
The common denominator between all of us is that we were not properly educated on the common issue that this procedure causes because the parent company, again allegedly, have been manipulating the numbers for years and silencing its victims through underreporting, undereducating, and tampering with paw data to fit their narrative, allegedly.
That's crazy because again, we used to see CoolSculpting ads all the time and they would always say that it's like virtually like risk-free, allegedly, of what I remember. So like that is nuts.
I was very fortunate to have recorded everything continuously and found a lawyer who fights Ideal Image and other med spas, especially with paw cases, willing to take my case on contingency. The issue was that the contract they sent me wasn't in fact a contract, and she made me aware that Ideal Image always had their clients sign an arbitration-only agreement for the state of Florida, which is where she practices, and if I could find that document, she could help me. So I called corporate again multiple times, demanding that they provide me a contract demanding that they provide me the contract I was informed was supposed to be in existence. I still have no memory of signing anything and was denied there even was a binding contract to begin with. However, after submitting a BBB complaint and getting someone to call me back, schedule an appointment with a medical doctor for a diagnosis, who in the beginning they told me they didn't have one. It's ridiculous. They ended up canceling my appointment the day before because I already filed a claim with the parent company because they left me in this position without any help. I didn't know what else to do. And they said they could no longer help me. After all the customer service reps were no use and said there wasn't one finally said, yes, in fact, here it is. Here's a service contract with a binding agreement after almost 3 months of being told it didn't exist. She emailed it over to me, and I'd like to say too, she emailed it over to me immediately. So if Vinny, the clinic manager, had to contact corporate and she was able to email this over to me immediately, why did it take him so long to send me my documents? And why did he keep, oopsie, forgetting to attach certain documents? Well,
because he was stonewalling, obviously.
So she emailed this over to me, and the contract was incredibly sus. The arbitration agreement that was supposed to hold what I signed for that for my potential legal aid was in a broken link. It was like a 404 not found page. I don't think it was exactly that when I clicked on it. I think it was like server not found or something, but you get the gist. While there was a small clause that said paw was a factor, it also left out quite a lot of information, which is how my lawyer was able to fight these cases continuously and win, because they now know how much the parent company and clinics had been hiding, and also knew that these people had all of this information that we know now about paw and paw treatment, and that it's not, in fact, extremely rare. It's actually, in fact, very common. They had this information at the time of my procedure, yet they still denied all of this, and they didn't tell me any. So even if I had signed that contract at the time, they still didn't give me informed consent.
I am flabbergasted. I'm flabbergasted.
When I called Ideal Image back, they told me that it was just their privacy terms and I could use that. They told me that I could just use the privacy terms on their website for my binding arbitration agreement. My lawyer said no, not true. They know what they're doing, and they are notorious for hiding and manipulating records to throw people off. I called them again, demanding that they send me the information that shows what I agreed to. And Ideal Image had the nerve to tell me that my lawyer had to call them in order to give me that info and hung up on me. And that's what's insane, because they know that I would not have been able to even get a lawyer to represent me had I not had that binding agreement.
This is just so angering. It like makes me mad, okay? Like, guys, if you're watching this and you're thinking about getting any sort of procedure done, and please do not take this as me victim blaming, okay? It's just we live in a capitalist society, and at the end of the day, we, the small guy, we're not going to win. Please do your research, okay? I I'm gonna get on my soapbox just for a little bit real quick, okay? Like I have been watching, and do not take this as me saying like if you want like a GLP-1 or something that you shouldn't do it. I'm totally against it. That is not the case, okay? I am totally okay with people taking GLP-1s. But at the end of the day, that needs to be a decision between you and your doctor. Okay? I know we're taking a tangent here, but like I have lost all respect for Serena Williams. I understand we live in a society right now where there are influencers, but one, these decisions, you cannot make these decisions off of ads on TV, number one, okay? Because I know a lot of people, they see an ad, they go in and they say, hey, I want this. And depending on where you're going and depending on who the doctor is, depending on who the provider is, depending on if you're going to a med spa or like an actual doctor's office, your doctor is either going to be like, okay, yeah, here, sure. Or, hey, have you tried all these other things first? And I know that we as humans, we like instant gratification. We like to get the things that we want immediately. But please take the time. I'm not saying GLP-1s is not doing things right, because there are people who need GLP-1s right off the rip, right? If you're diabetic, you're morbidly obese, yes, you need them, right? But if you are like looking to lose like 10 to 20 pounds, please, I'm begging you, take the time, do your research, okay? Take the steps, try the steps that have worked for people for hundreds of years, okay? Before you put these things in your body. And the reason why I'm saying that is because we still do not know what the long-term effects of GLP-1s are going to be. We really don't. We don't know if 20 years from now it's going to turn into, hey, women, which by the way, women, even if you're on a GLP-1, you need to be lifting and you need to be lifting heavy, because what's going to happen is I think after like 30, I think we lose like a certain percentage of muscle mass every year. And then also, if you're not weightlifting, you're also not strengthening your bones. So there's also the risk of getting osteoporosis. Now on GLP-1s, where you're also barely eating and you're not exercising, you're losing muscle mass, your bones are not strong, which is putting you at a higher risk of from dying from falls. Yeah, you know, old people die from falls, right? It's usually because their bones and their muscles are not there to help them recover properly. What's going to happen when you are in your 40s and you've been on a GLP-1 for 10 plus years, which by the way, yeah, a lot of people are not getting off of them, because when they get back off of them, the food noise is gone because they are not doing the work to be able to survive without it, right? So the food noise comes back. You wasn't exercising in the first place. Yeah, start back eating like you was eating before you was on a GLP-1. And guess what? You're back to where you are, except now you have less muscle mass and weaker bones. Like, please, I'm asking y'all, please do your research. Take the time to get the steps right. If it ends up in the end that you do need the GLP-1, then you do need the GLP-1. But a lot of y'all need to, 1, eat less, 2, lift heavy, and 3, go to therapy. That's the truth. Okay? Like, please, please. I do not want y'all to die early. Okay, and not just that, to die from something that is absolutely preventable. Okay, you know, and they say like, you know, you need to exercise for your heart health, you need to exercise for your bones and your muscles. Okay, yes, I get that skinny is in, but what should really be in is athleticism. Okay, try to be an athlete. You don't need to be an athlete that performs at the Olympic level, but you need to be an athlete that is performing at a level that is going to ensure that you can make it past your 40s without detrimental falls or like easily broken bones, you know? So, but anyways, back to this.
So remember how I was talking about the BBB complaint? Okay, so all of this was happening simultaneously. This is when, like during this time, I was actually sitting in this seat right here last year, and was speaking to them when they had found this contract. That, like when I finally had the people tell me like, oh, you have to have your lawyer call us. That is literally when Ideal Image Corporate, or the corporate company, called me back and said, we see that you have already submitted a claim to the parent company because they weren't doing their job, so we can no longer help you. And they canceled my very next day appointment with a medical doctor to get a diagnosis without warning. They just left me a voice message. So by the grace of all that is freaking holy, I guess, I don't know, that is when the senior manager, because I was not going to let it go, I was not going to close the BBB complaint, I kept it open, and me being me, I fucking raised hell. And the senior manager called me back and she let me know that I had ground to take legal action and I had let her know that I had ground to take legal action and was in contact with a lawyer. And that's when she finally started to work with me.
These companies, I don't know. Capitalism has like absolutely just ruined us as a people. Like, it should not be people getting a lawyer involved for y'all to try to help people. This is people's health and their body. Like, your body is so personal to a person. Like, I really do hate this world. I really do. It's so depressing.
She apologized. She was like acting very apologetic. Oh, it shouldn't have happened this way, blah, blah, blah. But it took her about 3-ish weeks for her to contact the legal department and for them to send me the binding agreement that my lawyer needed to get to work. Keep in mind, 1-year discovery law. We're like 6 months in or something like that. After trying our hardest to fight this, because we did end up building a case, basically we thought that we were going to win and get a settlement. because we had a very solid case and she usually got really great results for her clients because she fights this all day long. However, at the very last minute, the American Arbitration Association rejected our claim due to the insolvency that Ideal Image filed literally the day that we filed arbitration. And we wouldn't have been able to get the settlement, essentially, because there would have been no one to claim the assets from, or the recovery from. Ideal Image literally filed insolvency, liquidated all of their assets with a third party, I think it was like private equity or something. I can't remember. Don't quote me on that part. But they did, however, liquidate all of their assets and just leave. Like, the legal team for Ideal Image told my lawyer, and I quote, "We're going to have to drop them because they're not paying their legal fees and they're not calling us back," after doing negligent harm to me and many other people.
Companies shouldn't be able to just liquidate and disappear, okay, when they hear the saxophones, allegedly. I assume that's why they closed down, because they probably couldn't afford anything anymore and people are coming after them, so they just disappeared.
So this leaves me with a giant bulge of rock-hardened fat that will only continue to grow on my core unless I get the necessary surgery to treat it. This surgery, if done correctly, and please keep in mind, you have to have this done a specific way. You cannot just get a regular tummy tuck, you cannot just get regular lipo, you have to get vasor lipo, and if you're lucky to have enough skin, I think it's called skin elasticity, or something, it's like loose skin, essentially, you can get it cut out. However, whatever you can't get cut out is going to continue potentially growing on your body. There's a lot of people in the PAW community who, whether they got it treated through the parent company or not, have recurrence, meaning that scar tissue that they were not able to get cut out is left in their body for life and it's going to continue to expand, leading to them needing like vasor liposuction sessions throughout their life. There have been a lot of people who had it treated and they ended up getting pregnant, and then after their pregnancy, the paw grew back and it looked like it did before the surgery.
This would send me into depression, a depressive spiral. It really would.
So in order to get this done correctly, I have learned just from listening to other people's experiences, you need to go to somebody who is like impeccable with what they do. So in order to get it done correctly, it's going to cost me a minimum of $63,000. And this is going to include the tummy tuck, which is, I think it was 40,000? And then 6 months after that tummy tuck, it would be the vasor liposuction to get the remainder that they weren't able to cut out, which would have been another $23,000 on top of that. This does not account for the travel fees from going from Tennessee to New York City 2 times, but this price also includes a complimentary session, at least what they told me in the beginning when I was doing this, in case recurrence happens.
And also the fact that you have to go under the knife twice. Yeah, there's also that. Your life.
There's also a $3,000 a day fee for nursing staff required for the daily lymphatic massages after the treatment. I thought that it was required for 7 days. However, it is only required for 24 hours by state law in the state of New York City. So that is something that I would have to pay. But if I wanted to ensure best results possible for this, the lymphatic drainage, I have been told by Dr. Funderburk, I trust him, he knows what he's doing, that is something that would cost $3,000 for 7 days. You also have to think about lodging, you have to think about travel, and you have to think about meals, because after a tummy tuck, you can't just eat junk, you gotta eat clean, which I already know what I'm doing there. I mean, good Lord, I've lost a lot of weight. However, if I am getting out of like a massive surgery, I don't think that I'm going to want a meal prep. And I don't think my mom is going to want to either, considering she's going to have to be the one taking care of me. If you're wondering why I don't just send all of that information over to AbbVie, well, I tried to, actually. I did. In my GoFundMe, I put that I hadn't, but I did a couple weeks ago. And because I did not report this incident to them within the first year of getting treatment, even though they know that this has been a massive issue with med spas not educating their clients and people not even knowing about it until years later, basically they denied me and said that I wasn't eligible. However, even if I had, this is insane. Even if I had been eligible, with the 1 year, I would have had to have an in-person diagnosis. As we can see, for a lot of us victims, if we are with the wrong med spa who screwed us over, that's impossible. And at this point in time, okay, these plastic surgeons, they don't want to deal with it. And I don't fucking blame them.
Yeah, they're basically just relying on these companies, these med spas covering their ass so that it never gets to them, is really what it is. Like, allegedly. This is so sad.
On top of that, they only give you up to $7,500 per area. However, I have heard from many CoolSculpting victims in the group that I'm in that they had the nerve to offer them $2,000. Some people said that they got provided the amount of money that they paid. They just simply got a refund.
$7,000 is not even close to what you need to try to fix this issue. And that's if you caught it early. Like, oh my gosh. I'm just so disappointed in humanity. Like, you know when you want to laugh so you don't cry? Like, oh my...
I've also heard from others saying that they go to these clinics, right, the med spas that they go to get this done, immediately, even if they are told within the first several months, and they're sent away by the med spas, and they're told that it's too early to tell, which, again, I've heard is another issue with lack of clinic education, and they don't end up getting a proper diagnosis until after that 1 year is up.
It's too early to tell, like, you only have a year to catch it, to be able to claim it, but you need more than a year to properly confirm that you have PA. That's from the med spa's opinion, right? But I don't know if an actual doctor needs a year, but like, it really is a catch-22 that you can't afford to fix space. I mean, if you have the money, but you shouldn't have to pay to fix, because it's not you doing this to yourself. It's these machines where they allegedly did not tell people that this is a side effect, and it is more common than you would think.
I've also heard from like techs nowadays who will say things like they've commented or messaged me like, hey, this parent company will pay for it. And then they find out from me in 2026 that they implemented a Cool Confidence program where they don't do that anymore the way that they used to. And I'm pretty sure, I guess allegedly at this point, but I'm assuming a lot of these like technicians also think that you should diagnose it after the first year. Like, the other issue too is that this company, the parent company, has not properly educated people. They just say you need lipo. You can't just get lipo to fully cover it. If you were to even get that settlement money, and let's say it's in the early beginning stages of development, and maybe it's not going to cost you $63,000. Maybe it's just one Vaser lipo session. That's all you can get because you can't cut it out. That's all you, need. It's still going to have to be Vaser. If you want to get that done in one treatment, it's going to have to be Vaser. And Vaser for PA is upwards of like $20,000 to get this done correctly. There's a lot of people perpetuating misinformation in my comment sections as well, but you guys, I've researched this. I've spoken to victims who are in this PA support group and said, yeah, I did everything they told me to do. I got the regular lipo. I paid the small $10,000 for this or the $10,000 tummy tuck or whatever, and it's 3 years later, and because I didn't get it done correctly, it's growing back.
Yep, fat never totally disappears. Even if you have a little bit of cells left back, they're going to grow, they're going to multiply. I keep saying I have no words, and it's because literally I have no words. Okay, all of this misinformation, in my opinion, is well placed. Okay, it is so well placed. It is so that the people who are doing the diagnosing don't really know the actual procedure, what they need to do for the diagnosing. They don't know the actual timeline that they could do the diagnosing. So that confuses them. They think they know what. Not just confusing, they're also willfully, in my opinion, participating in these things, because you could just try to do right by people and actually like be like, oh wait, I can actually see that there's a huge difference, right? Without waiting a year, if the person has, that much like fat growth or whatever it is. But all of this misinformation is placed so that the people who are doing the diagnosing are doing the wrong thing. It's so that the people who are receiving the information don't know what is true and it's confusing. Okay, all of this, in my opinion, works very well together to confuse everybody and make the process convoluted. And so, which a 1 year statute of limitation is really, well, is there statute of limitation? Statute of limitation really is not that long. I'm in my 30s. A year to me these days is like a blip. It's not that long.
I have since learned from my last video taking off in like the comments that, okay, yes, there are a lot of lawyers who will take things on contingency. Please know that I am in Tennessee. I am a blue dot. And our laws are atrocious. But a lot of lawyers elsewhere will take med mal, things like this on contingency because they know that they have a massive pay cut. There was I think it was a law school student that told me that who was about to take the bar. But even then, a lot of the times if it's a medical spa and if it's for aesthetics in the United States, people, like, they don't care. Even if you were not properly given the information and you're in the situation that I'm in, they don't give two shits. And that's really sad. And for those of you who are defending that, like, well, what are they going to do? Sit down and educate you? They're not going to sit down with you and talk to the...
Yeah, that really sucks. Because here's the thing. Even if somebody is paying for a procedure, okay, if it was, and it's cosmetic, okay, it doesn't mean that they deserve for something to go wrong. At the end of the day, you paid somebody to give you a procedure, and you paid for them to give it to you the correct way. And you paid for them to give you all of the possible side effects and to disclose how occurrent are those side effects, okay? Because if, say, I went to get CoolSculpting, I don't know what the actual rate is, right? But there is a difference between, in my decision making, if somebody told me the occurrence of this negative side effect is 2% and 25%. I hate to see when regular, everyday people are bootlicking to big capital companies. Because at the end of the day, okay, you bootlicking them is not going to give you a one-up in the world. We have to hold everybody accountable so that us, the small man, okay, are not constantly just given it in the rear end over and over because, I don't know. Sorry, a lot about my politics is coming up right now, okay? Like, bootlicking a billionaire or a millionaire today is not going to make you a millionaire tomorrow. That's a simple fact. We need to stop supporting structures in society that at the end of the day might come back and get you.
Yes, there are class actions. A lot of people have suggested, why don't you go in and get onto the class action? I've tried. From what I have researched and what I have tried to get into, they're not taking clients anymore.
The other thing with class actions is when you join a class action, most of the times, you are forfeiting your right to go and sue individually, right? So like, I've been in a few class actions just for like minimal things, right? A lot of times the money you get back from a class action is not going to be enough to fix the issue that you have. In something like this, like she's saying that she needs over $60,000 for surgery. Given we don't know how many people there are, but if there is like hundreds of thousands, like if a class action only pays out say $5 million, a lot of times it's not going to be enough money to cover the stuff that you need to fix the issue that you have. If it has to do with my body, that class action better be paying to fix what is wrong with me, because
I'd also like to mention that when you look for this stuff online, I've been victim blamed for this already because people will then research it and say, well, it says this or it says that, but like that is false information. They don't actually listen to victim stories and report on what we experience. This hurts. I literally was like confused when I started. The larger that it gets, the more that it hurts. Last year, when I was doing a little bit more research on all of this, I started to notice that the sharp pains that I'd been feeling maybe are attributed to this bulge that has been left on my core that I didn't know I had for years. And I commented in the Facebook group and asked, like, is anybody else experiencing this or is it just me? And like a whole bunch of comments of people like, yes, in all caps, like, oh my God, same. I can't do certain workouts because I will lose my balance because it's so bulky. I can't do ab and core workouts anymore because it's gotten so big. And now it's to a point where, yes, in the past, it was painful, but I thought like, oh, like I just, I haven't worked my core out in a while. But it's still doing that, not seeing any results. And then now it's literally gotten so big that it feels like I'm crunching a fucking boulder on my body. The other day I was walking on the trail, which is one of my favorite things to do. I hadn't done it in a while because of the heat in Tennessee. And it was the evening time and I had to cut my trail short because it hurt. My core literally hurt just from walking. And yes, a lot of people don't like the fact that I talk about this, but there are also a lot of really insane psychological damages that have been created from this. My self-esteem is at the lowest point it's ever been. I have starved myself at first because I thought that it was regular fat and it wasn't going away. But then now, because of the physical implications of it, like I can feel it expanding. Like when my stomach expands from eating, it will press up with the hardened fat.
Oh, that sounds awful. Regular bloating hurts. I can't imagine like being bloated and it's like pushing up against this hard fat that is like basically like a wall on the outside of your stomach.
It's infuriating. And a lot of people, when I talk about the physical part of it, will say things like, oh, well, we have worse problems. And I get that. I get that there are worse problems than this. But two things can be true at the same time.
Facts. I absolutely hate when I see comments saying there's more present issues in the world. Hey, we're human beings. We're capable of complex thought and we can worry about several things at once. We really can. She ended up posting a GoFundMe and I will make sure I put that in the description down below for whoever feels like they want to donate. Like I said, she made this account specifically to talk about her diagnosis. So there's a lot more videos on there if you guys want to go and like see more in-depth detail. But yeah, I watched this video and it just made me feel incredibly sad. Like as somebody who I've always been like athletic, like I did track in secondary school. I was in the military, so I was like kind of just always exercising. But I didn't truly like start like physically exercising for me until like maybe like last year. It is a lot of work, okay? It takes a lot of dedication. A lot of us are not like genetically blessed. I would say I'm not genetically blessed. In my family, I would say if you don't adopt a healthy lifestyle, generally, we are prone to like putting on weight easily, but not taking it off easily. So like minus my arms and my legs, like they look muscular very easily, but like my midsection and stuff, like I have to work very hard in order to like look athletic, right? So like this lady, she did have CoolSculpting done in 2019, but now she has a healthy lifestyle. She's eating the way she needs to eat and stuff. So now to be putting in the work and to see that like you have no control over this thing on your stomach that is just like literally hard and is like growing is just like incredibly sad. And I don't know like if I would have the motivation to work out, to end up my stomach is never going to look the way I want it to look unless I get 2 surgeries at this point and hoping that those 2 surgeries remedy it and you don't have to get any more. I don't know if I want to keep working out. Like I just like corporate greed is just so disappointing. It really is. And just to like, I don't know if I explained myself properly with the Serena Williams thing. It's just like, I was just very disappointed because she's been an athlete her entire life. It is okay that she wanted to lose weight. I just don't think that is okay for influencers to, because she is a celebrity and an influencer, right? To be able to endorse products like GLP-1s. I think that those things are very personal to people and it should be something done with a lot of research and really long and important conversations with your doctor. Okay, not because you saw Serena Williams take a GLP-1, so I wanted to take a GLP-1. Okay, like it's just like so incredibly disappointing. And I think that these days, guys, we need to do the mental work so we're not falling victim to the current trend because that's what it is. These bodies, they're trending, okay, right? And GLP-1s, because GLP-1s are so popular, and you have to think about like all the lobbying that's happening behind the scenes. Like this is like just a major ecosystem. Also, like specific companies could make millions and millions of dollars, and like they don't always have all of the facts of what the long-term effects are. If you absolutely need it, please go ahead. And this is with any procedure. Just make sure you're doing your research. Make sure you're seeing what the long-term effects are. Currently, with current medication that is constantly hitting the market, whether it is the GLP-1s or all of these, like, what is it, acids that people are taking now. If I could find the real, I'll put it in here to like make their skin produce more melanin. Guys, I don't want you to be like Coneigh. And again, this is not me victim blaming. It's just that you have to realize these companies do not care about you, okay? And I hope that Coneigh gets the money that she needs in order to fix her stomach, because it's just like so sad. I feel so sorry for her. Yeah, that's really just it for today. Again, thank you guys so much for subscribing to my channel. My next goal is 50 subscribers. I will see how long it takes to get there. I didn't expect us to get to 29 so quickly, to be honest. Thank you so much for being here. Stay safe, take care of yourselves, and no bootlicking, okay? Bye-bye.